Welcome back to Coffee and Conversation. So for all you Audie fans, yes, he is still in the toilet bowl every chance he gets. It's gotten to a point where when I go into the bathroom, it's like 2 or 3 times a day. I have to wipe down the whole bowl. And it's not just because of the cat litter he's got all over it, but all this black fur. Apparently he's rubbing on the toilet seat. At least that's what it looks like to me. But I have a picture for you, by the way. So here you go. Yes, this is what I deal with every day. So one of our viewers had suggested that maybe he dislikes the cat litter. And it occurred to me that I had, in fact, put new litter into his box. Here we are. Yes, I'm talking about you. Well, obviously I'm talking about him, so he's got to come out, make sure you know who I'm talking about. I had put new litter in his box, and I think I mentioned that this happened after I had changed his box. And Audie gets like somewhere between 35 and 40 pounds of litter in his box. It's quite a lot, but he likes it. You do, don't you? So I give him enough litter to let him play and do, whatever it is he wants to do with it. I don't want him to feel deprived. But he did have a different brand of litter. So anyway, I think that might be a good observation. Maybe I have to take a look and see if that litter is really the source of the problem. Audie won't tell me. He's not talking to me about anything. Yeah, clearly, he's just making faces at me. So I thought I would give you that little bit of an update. Audie, why didn't you? No, okay. I was going to see if I could get him to turn around and show you his pretty little Audie face, but we're not willing to do that. Nope, he's going to have to stay up on the shoulder where he likes it. Yes, okay. Yes, I know. All right. We are going to take a quick look at the intro. Yes, I'm scratching you. Can't you feel that? Yes, I am. All right. We're going to take a quick look at the intro. I am going to bribe him with cat treats because he clearly does not feel like sharing today. And I have a video to do. Yes, I do. So, we'll be back in a second. So, I thought we would talk about the Schoolhouse today. Now, many of you have asked me questions about it over the last few years, and I have not been able to talk about it because the matter was in litigation. And when you have a matter in litigation, you let your lawyer talk. You just shut up because you don't want to be like that client, the idiot who sinks their lawyer's case by saying the wrong thing at the wrong time. So, for those of you who are not aware, I have an 1852 schoolhouse. I'm going to use that as the thumbnail for this video. This watercolor was done in 2020 by Kiley Secrest, and all of his information is in the video notes. He was just so kind about this. He did a wonderful drawing of the schoolhouse. He is an artist in Florida, and he did this wonderful drawing of the schoolhouse. He even put Audie in the picture because, you know, it's Audie. You had to put him in the picture. So, schoolhouse, great. I'm going to restore that. I'm going to move into it, and a tree fell on it, and not just any tree. 35, 40-foot oak tree, 200 years old, dropped on my schoolhouse. It took out about a third of the back wall, half the roof, and I will show some pictures of that because, boy, do I ever have pictures of that. So, obviously, everything had to be rebuilt, a roof had to be put on, etc., etc. And Initially, I was very pleased with what was going on, but over time, my communication with the contractor, it just wasn't going well anymore. Let me put it that way. Eventually, we ended up in court, and we ended up in court because he took me to court. I was not going to, and my attitude was, if I make a mistake and I take a loss, oh well, that's the price you pay for being an idiot. So I would not have chased this down on my own, but he's dragging me into court. Of course, I'm going to present my case as well. And in the end, I did end up getting a judgment. It took 5 years, and this whole thing dragged out for 5 years. But I got a judgment. It's not likely I will ever be able to collect on the judgment. And frankly, since I was ready to walk away from this whole thing 5 years ago, I'm not getting my knickers in a twist over this. But the upside is, now that no one is ever going to be calling upon me to produce physical evidence, in other words, can we see current pictures of the schoolhouse? That's all behind me. So now I can get back to work on restoring the schoolhouse. Now, obviously, long time coming, and a lot of you now are not clear about what's going on with the schoolhouse, so I thought I would sort of give you a catch-up, because I am going to take you along on the process, and it's right here. It's like, literally, I live on the same property as the schoolhouse, so it's right here, so we are going to follow along. It is a small schoolhouse, relatively speaking. Of course, this all depends on where you live. The schoolhouse, the footprint of the schoolhouse is 30 by 30. And there is a porch in front, and that porch is 30 feet across because it spans the entire front of the schoolhouse, and it is 6 feet wide. Not very impressive, but still, it's a porch, and at 30 by 30, the interior footprint is 784 square feet. 784 square feet. The reason for that is the walls are a foot thick. So the exterior footprint is 30 by 30, but the interior footprint is 28 by 28 because of those full foot-thick brick walls. So that was initially what I thought I would have to play with. For folks in areas where houses are very large, I'm sure our Australian friends are not at all impressed, because, by the way, just in case you didn't know, Australia has the largest average home size in the world. And then Canada, and then the United States. We are number 3. But it is the 2 English-speaking countries that have less dense populations, more room to spread out. So, yeah, I know. I look at the frozen tundra in northern Canada and think, oh, I'm not sure I'd want to spread out there. And then I think of the sort of deserty outback in the center of Australia, especially since they have spiders the size of small cows. And think to myself, no, I don't think I'd want to spread out there. But we are 3rd. So for my Canadian and Australian friends, yeah, not a very big footprint. However, for my friends in the UK, sure, 784 square feet probably doesn't sound bad. And certainly, if you're living in New York City, people are raising families in smaller apartments than that. But that's what I have in terms of square footage, and I started digging out my plans. So let me just show you some of the plans that I have been working on. Now, this is the actual interior of the schoolhouse. And as I'm sure those of you with sharp eyes can see, I drew that up old school on graph paper with a ruler and a pencil. That just made a lot more sense to me. I tend to retain information better when I'm actually writing it down with my hands. If I'm working on a computer program, in one ear and out the other. So that is the basic layout. And let me explain a bit. The schoolhouse has 4 windows, and I've got them marked, and that's it, 4 windows. There is a small window up in the attic, but I don't even think there is a pane of glass in there. I don't know. We'll have to see. But the attic is not living space. It's never been open to me to go up there unless I wanted to climb through a little hatch, which I didn't want to do. But those are the windows. And then there are 2 doors. The front door, that's the one on the bottom. And by the way, this is oriented as a standard map, north at the top, south at the bottom. So yes, there is the front door, and then on the east side, there is a large cutout, which had originally been 2 separate windows, but at one point in the history of the schoolhouse, the windows and the wall in between them were taken out, and they just sort of blew it out so they could bring large equipment in here. At one time, apparently, it was a machine shop. So, what I have in this diagram is the French doors that are there right now. However, the French doors definitely took a beating when the tree hit the schoolhouse and everything else that took place. So they're going to have to be replaced. So, let's go back to our drawings. This little rectangle in the northeast corner is the trap door in the floor that leads down to the basement. So that I threw on the plans because that's something, it would be very expensive to move that. And I don't know whether or not that's a good idea to begin with, or if I can work around it, I might as well just leave it there. So that is basically what I am looking at. I can do anything I want because this is a wide open space. Now, let me show you one of the sets of plans. I have a lot of them, but I've only been able to find one. And I probably simply threw out the rest of them sometime over the last 5 years. But let me show you the ones that I do have. Okay, this is one of the ideas I had for how to configure the space. So, you can see what's going on here, and let me just start identifying this stuff for you. Okay, what we have is 2 bedrooms, one of which would basically be an office, just a large multi-purpose room. I have labeled it Great Room, and a kitchen. And we also have 1.5 bathrooms. Okay, some things have changed from my original plans. So let's start with the doors. Perhaps you will notice that in the bedroom, and this is the one that is in the southwest corner, which would probably be my office since I don't need 2 bedrooms, and Audie sleeps with me anyway. There is no door leading in or out. Yes, there's a door going into the closet, but there's no door leading in or out of that room. That was simply an oversight on my part. I did not add a door when I drew up those plans. But the doors would have just been standard hinge doors, just basic doors like you would have in your house. And I rethought that and decided that what I really want to do is put in barn doors. The reason I want to do this is because my first choice would be pocket doors. I have lived in old houses with pocket doors, and frankly, I like them. But the problem with pocket doors, and this is a huge, huge problem, is anything goes wrong in the track, and you have to knock out a wall to get in there to fix it. Not only that, but you have a large cavity on whatever side of the wall is holding the door. Large cavity that any number of things can get lost in. And yeah, who knows if you're going to see it again. But I like the idea of pocket doors, but the maintenance problems are more than I'm willing to cope with. Barn doors were very fashionable, probably starting about maybe 20 years ago. They started to become trendy, and they came in with that whole farmhouse rustic aesthetic. And that rustic aesthetic is starting to fade away now. That's no longer one of the really hot decorating trends, but barn doors don't have to be rustic. It doesn't have to be all weathered board or anything like that. There are many other options, so I'm sticking with barn doors because I won't have to worry about the maintenance. It's extremely simple, extremely easy to comprehend, and the main liability for barn doors is sound and privacy considerations. The doors simply don't close tightly. It's not like a regular door that just wedges into the frame and you could lock it. You can lock barn doors, but they require a different kind of locking mechanism. And of course, because they're not sitting tightly in a frame, you put one of them on the bathroom and maybe smells will escape, maybe noise will escape. They don't block out light completely because of that space, that air space around the door. I thought about that and said, I live by myself with a cat. And as far as Audie is concerned, whatever door you close, he's on the wrong side of it. I have a cat door in my bedroom door because he cannot bear to be locked out. He can't stand it. He would be very happy if I would put a little cat door in the bathroom door too. I haven't gotten to that point yet, but I know he wants one. So, do I need privacy? No, I live alone, period. Me and the cat. And the cat is going to go wherever I am anyway. There is no privacy when you have a cat. So, all of the liabilities of barn doors are just not liabilities for me. So that's one of the things I've decided I'm absolutely sticking with, barn doors. And why not? I can do it. I will enjoy barn doors because I always enjoyed my pocket doors. Also, the other side of this is I've been known to walk into doors. And I do think that may have influenced my decision just a little bit. I would just as soon not walk into an open door because my depth perception is shot, like it was ever good to begin with. So it is a bit of a risk for me. So that's one of the things I am changing from this plan. Okay, also, I think I am going to remove the French doors completely. I have to. There's no question about that. They really took a beating when the tree hit the roof. And even though they are still kind of marginally standing, that's not going to last for long. And I think I am going over to sliding glass doors. Again, they slide like pocket doors, like barn doors, so maybe there's something to this for me. But I've always preferred the look of French doors, but I prefer the practicality of sliding glass doors. I think for most purposes, they are better than French doors, especially when it comes to security. It's much easier to secure a sliding glass door than it is to secure a pair of French doors. But I'm sure I can get sliding glass doors that have little pane dividers, and I can pretend it's vintage, even if it's brand new. Another thing that I'm going to have to alter, I think, I'm not sure, I'm still playing with this idea, is I think I may end up switching the location of the kitchen with the little office, so that you walk in and the kitchen will be on the west, and the large living room multi-purpose place where, the place where the cushy chairs are, will be on the right. I think I may end up doing that. There are a lot of reasons for it, and there were plenty of reasons not to do it. The reasons not to do it is that area, it will be more difficult to get in to do the plumbing, not impossible, but more difficult than it would have been on the other side of the building, because the schoolhouse has a full basement for half, that's the northern half, has a full basement, but a crawl space for the southern half. However, that crawl space is 4 feet high. So it's not one of those, you have to snake along on your belly. No, there's plenty of room to be able to, go in there and sit up like a normal human being. It's just that you can't stand up. But I think that's something that's probably not as big an issue as I thought when I was first designing those plans. And I think I might prefer to have those rooms switched. Also, I'm not sure why I felt it was imperative that I have 1.5 bathrooms. Audie does not need his own bathroom. As I've told you, he's playing in my bathroom, so he's perfectly content. I think that's something I can take out if I need to find a little space somewhere else. So, I guess the bottom line is the plans are still in a state of flux, mostly because I hadn't gotten that far with my planning to begin with when the tree hit the roof, and I just tabled everything at that point. But, as I said, this series of plans I'm showing you, that is not the only one that I had come up with. It's just the only one that after 5 long years I can still find. So that's where I'm at right now. And by the way, totally interested in your input. So let me know if there are things, if you're looking at those plans saying, oh, wait, Sue, that won't work. Please share, because there were a lot of things that I was looking at over the years, and I came to the conclusion, for example, the French doors, I came to the conclusion that even though I like the look of them, they're just not all that functional. It's something where my interests would be better served just in terms of my ability to use the space if I just stuck with sliding glass doors. So, yeah, I love the look of French doors. I really do. I got French doors in there now. But was it a practical decision? And the answer is no. So I'm trying to be as brutal as possible with this and not let my emotions get the better of me, because that's something, when you start talking about your own living space, we all do this. We have our living space. We become emotionally invested in it. So we will go to great lengths, to rearrange our furniture just to make sure we can keep grandma's dresser because it's always been in our bedroom and we're not going to part with it, etc. And I want to make sure I'm making practical decisions, not screwball emotional decisions. So it should be fun. It's high time we got started on this. And certainly those of you who have asked me questions about it over the years have probably been quite impatient to see what's going on with this. And by the way, I do want to apologize because I know when people did ask, I gave them very vague answers. But as I say, when litigation is going on, you just keep your mouth shut. And I didn't want to get into talking about the litigation while it was happening, even to the point of saying, we're in litigation, because I'm not sure how my lawyer would like that. Actually, I don't think she would be upset. She would just be upset, I think, if I started talking about the issues. But it's all behind me now, and I'm feeling pretty good about moving forward. I like the schoolhouse. I like my neighborhood. I'm fine with it here, and I think I could be quite happy spending the rest of my life here. There are a few challenges. For example, that massive farm equipment, that looked like one of those lunar rovers you see. Whoa, yeah. I guess NASA's experimenting in my neighbor's farms. Okay, I actually had to stop filming, go back, listen to what I had been saying before I broke off to find my train of thought again. Gosh, I'm getting old. Okay, I was talking about the challenges. The schoolhouse, as I mentioned, has 1 foot thick brick walls, and it was designed to be functional without insulation because of that massive amount of brick. I don't think I'm going to be okay with current codes without insulation. However, I did get in touch with someone from I think it's like the American Association of Brick Builders. It's a brick organization, an organization of people who know and love bricks. And they told me they have information they can make available to me if I want to try to get a waiver in order to deal with this differently. I would say my odds of doing that are probably pretty good. However, I am most likely going to have to frame out interior walls, which I can insulate. So there will be a wall cavity that can be insulated. But it's little challenges like this. It's sort of, learn as you go. Restoring any old building, especially if you want to try to keep the character of the building, is not always easy. But I think it's going to be entertaining. And as I say, I am going to take you along on the trip with me. It's not going to be an every week sort of thing. It all depends on where we're at in the process and what's going on. But yes, I want you to see, because I never thought I would have an opportunity to do this. And consequently, maybe some of you are not going to have an opportunity to do something like this. For my friends overseas, this is not the oldest building in the United States by any stretch of the imagination, but it's pre-Civil War. And these antebellum buildings, there are not a lot of them left. So it's 170 years old, which is pretty significant for a country that's just celebrated its 250th birthday. So that's what I wanted to share with you today, just where we are going, what is happening, and the fact that finally things are going to be getting on track. So, thank you for being with us. I hope you will come along with me as we start to work on the schoolhouse. I expect it to be a lot of fun in addition to everything else. But as you saw, I have almost a blank canvas. Yes, I have to work around windows, 4 of them. I have to work around a trapdoor into the basement. There's only one of those. I have to work around 2 doors, but other than that, it is a giant square of emptiness. And that means I can very much do what I want to do. But it's also a relatively speaking, small square of emptiness. As I say, the raw square footage is 784. If I frame out walls and just deduct 6 inches for framing on the 4 exterior walls, we go down to 729 square feet. I don't think it's too small for one person. If I had a family of 6 kids, yes, I would think that would be appallingly small. On the other hand, as I say, many people have raised families in places just as small, perhaps even smaller. So everything is relative. But I am very pleased that we are going to be able to go forward, and I am very sorry that I was not able to give you much of an explanation for why everything was stalled. And I hope this will answer your questions. Yes, we were in a legal wrangle, so that's why the brakes were put on everything, but we will be going forward, and I expect that before the end of the year, we are going to have, before the end of the year, we're going to have a solid plan, and we're probably going to have the renovations underway. So that is what I have for you. Thank you for being with us. I hope to see you next time. And in the meanwhile, have a terrific day.